Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 200th episode of The Locher Room. I'm Alan Locher. I never could have imagined that I would still be hosting this show a year and a half later. Thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in and joining me on this ride. I couldn't think of a better guest to mark this milestone than Emmy Award-winning producer and director Christopher Goutman, who I was lucky to work for at As the World Turns. Chris has spent most of his career working as a director, producer, and writer. He started his career as an actor, appearing on The Doctors, Search for Tomorrow, The Edge of Night, and Texas. He served as an executive producer for Another World and As the World Turns. He also directed episodes from 9 different daytime dramas. He created and produced 2 web series, Turn and L.A. Diaries, which he also directed, as well as promotional campaigns for network TV, commercial movie theater trailers, and an award-winning presidential campaign ad. For his work in television, he has shot on locations all over the world. He has also wrote, produced, and directed 2 short films, The Square Root of 3 and Visions of Joanna, both of which received extensive exposure on the independent film circuit. In theater, he has directed in New York, Philly, and Florida. He has 5 Emmy Awards for his work as a producer and a director, and a Directors Guild of America Award. He currently serves as the Artistic Director, Associate Professor at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, where he just finished teaching a class. Please welcome to The Locher Room, Emmy Award-winning producer and director, Chris Goutman. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Alan.
Did I get that all right?
Yeah, you did. Congratulations on your 200th episode.
Thank you very much.
All I can say is, what took you so long to get to me?
I know. Well, it's fascinating because I started with the talent, and then people asked for behind the scenes, and I think they're really fascinated, the behind the scenes. And my first EP was Jill Farron Phelps.
Yeah.
So
terrific. It's good to be here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Technical glitches as we go.
Yeah.
So as I said backstage, I just learned that your mom was an actress and taught for 42 years and also did community theater your entire childhood. Is that where your interest in this world began?
Yeah, I guess it sort of, was, I absorbed all that. I spent my childhood, building sets, learning how to put up lights in community theater. So I'm a child of the theater. So that's essentially it. That's the curse, I guess.
Seriously.
So, she was forced. She taught at a girls' school outside Philadelphia, the Baldwin School, for 42 years. And I think her legacy is the impact she had on all of her students. So I also get that from her as well, the teaching gene.
Yeah, seriously. Do you hear from students of hers? Have you?
Absolutely. There's a director by the name of Mary Robinson, who I think lives in Brooklyn. I teaches at Brooklyn College, and she wrote a book about directing. And her first chapter is sort of cites my mother as her major inspiration. So
wow.
And they just built a new sort of a theater at Baldwin School, and it's in honor of my mother. So it's very good. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Very cool.
But your undergraduate degree was in literature.
Yes.
Did you have a different career path in mind with that degree?
Yeah, no. I just, like everyone in college way back when, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and English lit was sort of the fallback thing, and I loved it. So it was a good thing. I had to learn my reading.
Well, that helps in the jobs you
yes,
have,
it does.
for sure.
Yeah.
You graduated with an MFA from Carnegie Mellon, which I know was special to you because we went and filmed there. But so many talented actors. Tamara Tooney from our show.
Yeah, Tooney.
Can you share the impact your professor Larry Carra had on you?
Well, Larry Carra was my mentor, and I think that everything that I know today, listen, it was such a different environment, the academic environment. There was so much pressure on everyone. We were really taken to task, highly critical environment. And I came out of there going like, oh, I'm such a relief to get out of there. But I think that everything I know, I always fall back on what I learned there. And it was such a foundational experience for me. So I treasure it. A lot of my friendships are people I went to school with there. And I just think it's an amazing place to learn the craft of directing.
What do you think you learned from Larry that you're now conveying to your students at NYU?
I just think it's so belief in yourself, confidence, and also willingness to take chances, willing to dare, but also learning the craft, because art is built on the shoulders of craft. And once you learn your craft, it will serve you for the rest of your life.
That's great. What was it back then about directing that intrigued you so much?
Well, my father was an artist. So again, I was sort of a double whammy. So I was always—
You had no choice.
No, it was like, and so it was sort of, I was always interested in the visual arts, and I never felt that comfortable acting. So I always knew I wanted to direct. And it combined all the sort of interpretive skills that you get from English lit, as well as the visual skills that you get from the art world. So it just felt like a comfortable fit for me.
But when you first arrived in New York, you started acting.
Yeah, I mean, for me, acting was the fastest way into the business. I had no interest in directing off Broadway theater. I had none. So I just thought, let me just get some work acting. I was fortunate enough to get some acting work, and it was just as I interpreted the business at that point, where I was and where the business was at that time. I just thought it was the best way to enter the business, and to me, it was a business.
So interesting, because I wonder, acting isn't that easy to get into, but I love that that's what you thought.
I know it was sort of, well, like I said, Larry Carra taught me confidence. So you just have to dare, and it was just taking a dive, and I knew that what was the worst thing that could happen.
Well, and that's true. And when you're out of college, we have that drive to—
Yes, and I was also young and stupid. What did I know? So yeah, go, fine. Yeah.
Well, you had acting roles on The Doctors,
yeah,
where you played Stuart Match, Search for Tomorrow, Mark D'Antoni, The Edge of Night, Matt Sharkey, and Texas, George St. John. What stands out in your mind from some of those roles?
Well, The Doctors was, I got, almost the minute I got off the train from Philadelphia. So it was good. I remember, I think I was the brother-in-law of the girl who was marrying Jonathan Frakes on the show. Search for Tomorrow was the first contract role. I enjoyed that very much. I think my favorite was Edge of Night, Sharkey, because he was such an odd fellow, just sort of just mischievous, I would say. In any case, I enjoy it. And also Nick Nicholson, who was, again, another mentor of mine, he was the one who gave me a chance to direct. And I will forever be grateful for the late, great Nick Nicholson. He was a gentleman. And
yeah, I want to ask you about Nick as well.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned, or which show did you learn the most at?
Oh, certainly Edge of Night. I mean, because, I went from acting into directing, and Nick was, it was the kind of thing where we basically shot live, Alan, where where you took, you rehearsed it, and then 30 minutes it took to do the show, because they didn't want to edit it. And if you screwed up, they got really sort of, Nick wanted to have his cocktail at 4:30, so you had to get finished by 3:30. So you had to do it, and it was all live on tape. It was literally live. We had the music director counting down the music cues, so you had a real sense of a whole thing being part of one sort of organism, and depending on each other. The cameras were moving live between scenes, so there was no cut. There was no stoppage. We went from beginning to end with slugs for however much time the commercial slugs were. So it was exciting. It was like being in the theater. It was like live theater every day.
Yeah. And speaking of your craft, you really had to know your craft to do live, basically what is considered live television.
You had to show up prepared, and that was sort of, preparation is always, to me, the most important thing, because if you're prepared, you can do anything. So it was really good, and I made such friendships there, and it was a very important time in my life. So it was good.
So Larry and Nick,
Those are the two guys.
big men,
Yeah.
big roles in your life.
Yeah.
And then your first contract directing was Another World, right? Where you spent
Again, I'd been directing for 2 years, and I was sort of freelancing. Ryan's Hope, Search, a couple other shows, I think. I don't remember. And then I don't know. Barnett Kellman left Another World, and they had an opening. And I guess, I don't even know if I had an agent then, but it somehow came to me, and I just stepped in. And again, a great learning experience. And
any directing highlights that stand out in your mind from?
No, I just remember the cast. The cast was just a real groove then. It was like, we had Morgan Freeman there and a lot of other actors there, and Chris Rich, and it was wild and woolly 80s, Alan. It's just,
And you were out in Brooklyn that far back.
Yeah, I knew Brooklyn. And Cosby was directing in the other studio. Cosby Show was taping in the other studio. So it was just really, a lot was going on, and it was, again, a really great experience. But I just, after 3 years, I just knew I just wanted to move on.
And was All My Children your next?
Actually, I wasn't sure that I wanted to continue doing soaps, but then I think I don't know how it came about, but I just went to All My Children almost right after that.
And spent almost 8 or 9 years.
Yes, and again, the people there were just phenomenal, and friendships that have lasted, to today. And it's all about the people, Alan. You know that. It's just about
it really is
that you meet, and they stand the test of time. So
mm-hmm.
It's all good.
And I've interviewed Susan, I think 3 times so far, but I knew her. I didn't know her, but I had met her when I worked at Regis and Kathy Lee, and she was always, an amazing woman. What was it like directing her?
It was great. Susan was like, she was just so on the ball all the time, and she cared so much about it. That's what you never hear about. I mean, she just really cared. She wanted it to work, and she is a very generous, good soul. So I have nothing but wonderful memories about Susan, and great experiences with her. We've shot in Budapest. I don't think you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we went to Budapest, and that was, again, crazy. But because someone knew the owner of Café des Artistes, who was Hungarian. And I don't know, this was back, when ABC was run differently. It wasn't a corporate, it wasn't Disney. So we were on the same block or in the same neighborhood, and we all talked to each other. And so the owner of Café des Artistes says, "Why don't you shoot in Budapest?" That's how it came about.
What, were you there 86, 88?
Yeah.
That's so funny, because that's when I was a page at ABC, and I would have to come over there and give tours. I gave a tour of All My Children to the Cleveland Indians, because them and their wives, who were, sports guys, were some of the biggest fans because they had all day free.
Perfect. And of course, we were talking earlier about the little ripster, Kelly Ripa.
Yes. Well, tell me about, you directed the screen test that helped land Mark his role as Mateo.
Well, the funny thing is, they kept on dangling this carrot in front of Mark, and they wouldn't put him under contract. And I don't know why, because he's a gorgeous man, and he's very talented, and I don't know what was going on. I wasn't privy to those conversations. So finally, they did a screen test, and he was finally hired. It had nothing to do with me, really. I was just the guy saying, why don't you move here, move there, and all that stuff. But the funny thing is, we shot in Jamaica soon after, I think, that he came on the air. I may have the time frame wrong, but something like that. And, I was sort of a witness for them sort of coming together as a couple. So it was very exciting. And then last year or 2 years ago, COVID, I have to skip over COVID.
Skip over a year.
Yeah. COVID, and their son, Michael, was a student at NYU, and he happened to enroll in one of the classes that I teach, which is a intermediate TV production class. And Kelly came on and did a small part in the little series in which Michael was a participant. So I reconnected with Kelly, and Kelly's just such a dear. She's just such a wonderful person. It was nice to reconnect through her son.
Yeah. What do you think? It's pretty exciting that they're talking about the Pine Valley remake?
Again, I have no idea what that is or how that's proceeding and, what that's about. But, it was a wonderful show. And again, I grew up like a mile from Agnes. Her daughter went to Baldwin, where my mother taught. So that's how the connections happen. So I have such a, the two shows that she wrote that were based on her Philadelphia area, One Life and All My Children. I immediately had a feeling for. Do you know what I'm saying? I knew the people. I knew the communities that she was writing about. So,
did you spend much time with her, with Agnes?
No, not much. I mean, our families knew each other because of their daughter. So,
wow.
Yeah.
She sounds amazing. Somebody had sent me her autobiography once I started doing this show, and I mean, I knew who she was, of course, but wow, brilliant, truly, yes, 100%. When you became an executive producer, what did you look for in a director, and were you willing to take chances? I mean, I know the answer on new directors like Nick took on you.
Yes, the answer is yes. I think that I've the criticism that might be leveled at me that I was a little hard on directors, and probably true, because being a director, hopefully I've mellowed by now, but one can only hope, Alan. What I was really interested in is the lack of female directors in daytime, and I think Sonia Bongiardo came in through me, and Jennifer Pepperman. But I think that, to me, soap operas needed some female directors, and I was particularly interested in bringing in female directors.
Did an Ellen as well, Ellen Wheeler?
Ellen Wheeler came in as well. She directed a little bit on Another World. She actually started out as an actor. Well, she was an actor when I came to Another World. And then she sort of tried out as a director in the last days of Another World before she came over as The World Turns.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What would you say is the hardest part of directing a soap? Well, go back to Edge, and then take me to at the end of World Turns, sort of, what was the hardest during the Edge period, and then the period of, when it changed to tape?
I think it's always about trying to get a performance, I mean, I have so much respect for everyone who does daytime, still doing daytime. I mean, it's 254 shows a year or whatever. It's amazing. So whenever you can get a performance that's authentic, that's real, it's great. But also, if you can do whatever you can get in as a director that's sort of visually interesting, as well as being very efficient in your storytelling and not be indulgent, I think that's real important too.
After 2 years directing, I believe at As the World Turns, P&G came to you with the offer to be the executive producer of Another World. Did you say yes immediately?
Well, there was a long sort of a courtship there. I must say, Mickey Dwyer-Dobbin, I owe so much to her, and I'd be remiss not to mention her. She's just such a wonderful person.
Me too.
Yes, I know.
She gave me my job. So,
and Procter & Gamble. I mean, it was so funny. The first time I sort of went up for producership, it was much earlier than that. Ed, what was his name?
Ed Trock.
Ed Trock, and I interviewed for the producer of Guiding Light. I don't know when that was. I did my whole pitch. I did all this sort of thing. It was an interview. He sat and listened to me. And he goes, "You know what we need to do, Chris?" I was like, "Ooh, it's going to be great. We need to write you another role. We need to get you another role on a soap opera." So he didn't. He could only look at me as an actor. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it was so. I've been directing for years, but that was Ed. So Mickey sort of saw me in another light, and I got into sort of able to sort of review Story on Another World. We had discussions about it before all this went on, and I had to meet the people at NBC. So it didn't come out of the blue, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard you say that you thought it was their last ditch effort to save the show.
Yes.
Did you feel pressure from the moment you arrived?
Well, I felt pressure on both shows the minute I arrived. Both shows had their necks on the chopping block. I mean, that's the fact of it. And I mean, everyone sort of, it's why did As the World Turns go off the air? As the World Turns went off the air because CBS did not want it on the air, and Procter & Gamble wanted to get out of the business. It's all business, and I get it. But the point is that soap operas were going off the air in the 80s, Alan.
Totally.
I mean, right. So that curve had been going on for a long time. Now, Another World, that was a last-ditch effort. This was a Hail Mary pass. Mm-hmm. And I think the most unfortunate thing about it was the fact that NBC put us in competition with Sunset Beach and with my close friend Gary Tomlin, and that was just not right, But all told, again, I made great friendships. It was a great learning experience. It was trial by fire. Everyone was just so amazingly creative. And, I wish it had gone on in another iteration, and the opportunity was there, but it was not.
What was the hardest part of joining Another World at that time? If you can look back now, do you think?
Well, it wasn't hard at all. I just think that, so many of the actors had been through so much. Do you know what I'm saying? So much sort of trauma, as it were, by these gyrations. This producer's coming in, this producer's coming in. It was just.
Everybody trying to do their part to save it, but it just was jarring to everybody.
Yes, I think that there was a lot of, post-traumatic stress when I just entered the building, and it was just tense. And so I made things tenser. No. No. What I'm trying to say is it was on the chopping block. It was there. It would have taken a miracle to keep it on the air because it was not going to happen. But we gave it a good run. And I think the show, thrived very much while I was there. So, listen, Another World is the kind of show I felt a very strong kinship with because it had eccentricity to it. And that's what I always responded to.
And again, between, the two shows you EP'd, the talented casts on both of those.
Just amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, Linda Dano is just great.
Yeah, it's just, the love that fans have for, Bay City and Oakdale. It really.
It's phenomenal. And again, it was almost, because I directed there in the 80s, it was like a return home for me to a certain extent. So it was very. So I only have great feelings about it. It was just very gratifying.
Well, one of our fans, Canadian Girl, asked, "Can you talk about the decision to end Another World with the gorilla?" Was that?
Well, it's whether you consider it ridiculous or sublime. It's a matter. I leave that to the viewer. It was just one of those things where we just thought, just go out with a laugh. I think Richard Culleton wrote that episode, if memory serves.
That's pretty good if you get that right, Chris.
Yeah, I think he did. And to be honest with you, that's the last thing I remember about Another World. So there were so many other things. So the gorilla, if you remember the gorilla, if it worked for you, great. If it didn't, sorry.
Yeah. What else? Is there anything that pops in that you're really proud of from your short time there?
Well, I think we did something. We did sort of sci-fi. We got into genre there. I don't want to get too technical with your show, but we got into sci-fi a little bit. And I think that soap opera can expand a little bit in terms of what the subject matter. With what's his name? David. What's the actor's name?
The fans will tell me in a second.
Right.
I know who. I'm going to David Forsyth, who I think is world
in
term.
any case, we went really past reality there, and the audience sort of bought it, and it was sort of fun. So I think just pushing.
Oh, was it David McDonald?
Yes.
One of our fans. Oh, okay.
Yes.
David Andrew. Oh, I didn't realize. Right.
Pushing the boundaries of soap opera a little bit, and it worked because it was still based in romance and fantasy. So that was fun.
And then, shortly after Bay City went away, World Turns came calling.
Well, that's Dwyer Dobbins again.
But was there any hesitation on?
Yes, I didn't want to do it again. I just went. I'd rather just keep directing. So, to be honest with you,
I mean, you love directing.
Yeah,
but Mickey had faith in you to turn the show around, per se.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, be careful what you wish for, almost. But it was an enormous challenge, and I just took a look at the cast. I thought, wow, what talent! I mean, Larry Brigman, and just go down the list.
And you brought Liz back. At that time. Yeah,
and it was just so much talent. Very, very different. It was such a different show than any I'd ever come across. I got a little taste of it when I directed it before I went to Another World as a producer. But producing it, you really got a sense that it was just a very different show, very Midwestern.
Is there anything that stands out as like the most difficult part when you arrived in Oakdale?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was sort of when, I'm blanking on the name, when they went into the Snyder family. Who brought the Snyder family on?
Doug Marlin.
Doug. It became a different show. So to sort of interpret what Doug had done and then what happened before, there was sort of a weird sort of conglomeration of families, and how to sort of navigate those families I found challenging at first. But I enjoyed it immensely.
I mean, you had incredible cast, incredible writers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you had an amazing relationship with Gene Passanante. You found the fabulous Hogan Sheffer. Talk about your relationship as an EP with your head writers.
Well, Hogan is in a category all by himself. First of all, enormously talented. May he rest in peace, and such a dear man and such a kind man. I think there's always going to be a push and pull with writers. I always like to say, write what you want and let's try to do it. But sometimes you need a little bit sort of guardrails, and when to pull in the reins, when not to pull in the reins, all that sort of part of the negotiation, as it were. I love writers, and I think that's where it starts. And if you don't have good writing, it's not going to work. So I respect writers. I think they're amazing, and I was lucky enough to work with Hogan for 4 or 5 years, and work with Jean for a much longer period of time. She's, again, amazing talent, amazing person.
Completely agree on both of those. Yeah. If looking back on your time there, and you spent a lot of time as EP, are there things you wish you, or not wish, but maybe had done differently?
It's hard to say, Alan. I mean, I think the decision making is done in real time, because you've got to make these decisions on the fly. And
let's say it again, 254 shows a year.
It's so long ago at this point, but I'm very proud of the stories we were able to tell. And I think we did push the envelope quite a few times. And I think the storytelling was always, even if we just went down in flames, we were really trying something, and that's what I always wanted to do. I just wanted to let's see if it works. And certainly a lot of my decisions may not have been the best, but they were done with the best of intentions. And again, there was always a pressure. There was a ratings pressure and financial pressures that squeezed the show until especially at the very end.
Right. I mean, you're the executive producer. In a best world scenario, you would be the only man to answer to. But you have a network. You have a soap company that owns the there's so many cooks in the kitchen.
Well, again, we had to answer to two
big
CBS and Procter and Gamble, and they quite often did not get along well together. So you sort of You know,
They didn't play nice in the sandbox.
They meant well. Everyone meant well, but there was a financial imperative that's in place. And you can only do so much if you only have so much money. So for instance, the last 5 years, I think, and I'm not speaking out of school because this is the truth, we were really squeezed dry. We went, I think that your producers and your producer show said we were on location once a week.
Yeah.
And that's simply because we did not have enough money to put up what we call a green set in the studio. We could not rent a tree. We didn't have the money to do that.
Wow.
These are facts. So all these decisions, and where I always felt that we had to put money was in the talent, you know? But I do think that in terms of the visual look of the show, it was compromised by going hither and yon without a consistent look to the show. Mm-hmm. And that would be a fact of the matter, and that was driven by financial concerns.
Yeah, financial necessity.
Yeah, necessity.
Well, Luke and Noah were such a popular couple. How hard did you have to fight to tell that story? Because I know, working there, I know the ins and outs of, P&G and CBS, and telling a gay love story at that particular time was still a bit sensitive.
Well, it was funny. I mean, I think I don't know how it came up. It wasn't came up in the writer's room, and we're going like, can we do this? And this was Gene, and it's sort of, they pulled me in. I went, I don't know, try it. And it was the first thing. It was just their first kiss. It sort of got through very easily. And then the second kiss happened, and we started hearing stuff. And then the third kiss happened, and went, brakes on. So, and then it got a little, we had to have some discussions.
And some of that, I will say, is reaction, sadly.
Well, yes.
Companies being sensitive to people in the Midwest, people in the South who do not.
The fact of the matter is that Procter & Gamble has 300 odd brands. We were part of Procter & Gamble Productions, which is one brand of 300. So in other words, if what we were doing on As the World Turns offended a person who wanted to buy Tide, we heard about it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Helen Wagner said, "Good morning, dear," the first words of the show. And I know the intent was to have her say the closing words of the show. Tell us, about losing Helen just a few months shy of the show going off the air.
Well, we knew she was failing, and it was just really a shame. What a gift to have someone speak the first words and be on the show for that length of time. It is just a gift. And I'm sorry she wasn't there to see the end of it. But again, we had Bob and Kim, and that's, the fact is that there were so many actors there to carry the torch through generations, which again, it's one of the greatest strengths of As the World Turns. And whenever someone said, well, we got to get rid of so-and-so, I went, no. This is the strength. This is the tissue of the show. So, I'm sorry that Helen couldn't be there, but she was always on her game.
She was, and kept us all on her.
You couldn't get anything by that gal. No, you couldn't get anything by her. She
kept us all on her.
Sharp as a tack, and also high standards, and just wonderful to work with.
Yeah. Was it hard for you and the show when the contract negotiations with Martha fell through and you had to recast with Noelle?
It was just not a good time. Again, Mickey had left, and I sort of, I wished I'd had someone to talk to about, and I'm being very honest with you, Alan. And I think if Mickey had been there, it probably would not have happened that way. I don't want to get too much in the weeds of it.
Right.
I think Martha was a loss. If I had to do all over again, I probably would have done it differently. That's a fact. However, there were so many things, and the financial pressures were so overwhelming that I couldn't set a precedent. That's how I felt at the time. But listen, I feel very fortunate to have worked with Noelle Beck, who's so talented and wonderful person. But I was sorry that Martha couldn't be with us to the end. That's basically it.
And I mean, you guys, you and Martha, the whole Martha,
Rose,
Lily Rose, bringing Simon,
I mean, I just had such wonderful times with her and with those stories, and with Paul Layden.
He's following in your footsteps. He's directing in Budapest right now.
Yeah, I told you the story before about casting. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Please do. Yeah.
So we're talking about talent, and Paul we found in Australia. First of all, I just want to do a big shout out to Mary Clay Boland, who I think is in Louisville. She's a mom. She's just such a talented casting director, and she found such talent. And we knew we wanted to get an Australian, an Aussie for this part, and I said, let's go to Australia, like an idiot. So she did. And we found 4 actors. And the funny thing is, and Paul will, I'm not in touch with Paul, but he'll say, of course, Goutman was wrong about this. I wanted another actor. And everyone in the room, who were all female, said, Chris, you are so wrong. I went, okay, you're right. And they were right, of course. And Paul was amazing.
They were right. They were
right. I remember the first week, Paul was just so jet lagged. I'd find him sleeping on every sofa on the set between takes, with a blanket around him. So he was amazing.
Oh yeah, because he arrived in winter because we shared a car back from Brooklyn. He witnessed his first snow.
Yes, it was summer in Australia, and he went into a horrible winter, and he was just like, he got immediately sick. So, and he was just fantastic to work with, just a fantastic talent, good musician, everything. But again, the story that I was telling you is with casting is, Mary Clay and, my producers, the producers of As the World Turns were always right about, I mean, I had the chance to cast Josh Duhamel before he went on to All My Children. I'm the one who passed. And they all looked at me like I was crazy. And they were right. I was crazy. Again, not a good decision.
Yeah.
I own it.
But we did. We cast some amazing people.
Oh, some of them, yes, absolutely.
As a World Turns fan myself, and growing up on World Turns, I was one of those fans who always wanted to see more of the veteran cast. And then working there, I understood that it became about, business, and money played a part in how often we could see them. With a cast like World Turns, when you had Eileen and Don and Kathy and Liz and Larry and Colleen and all these people who made a lot more money, what was the tough part of navigating all of that?
It's so many layers to that, Alan. I think, a lot of it's just financial. We just didn't have the money. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the generational aspect of it, there was always the imperative to increase demographics, between the 18 to 48, 18 to 34 demographic. And we needed to bring in young blood. To bring people in, you only have so much airtime, people do less. So always the attempt was made to sort of put our veterans in stories with younger cast members, but keeping their stories alive at the same time. So that was the trick. And sometimes we succeeded, sometimes we didn't.
And one of those things was, the Aaron, Lucy, and Allison, Catch Us If You Can, that we took them to 10 college campuses.
You see this?
Oh, wait, what do you got? Oh my God, I wish I still had mine.
Catch Us If You Can. Yes,
that is amazing.
Call 1-800-555-1313. This will be yours for $3.98.
Hey, do you know it's 19 years ago this week, basically?
I know.
We were in Charlotte today.
But again, Alan, this was all an attempt to boost the ratings.
Yeah.
It was a 3-tiered sort of thing. We, Mary Clay Boland went on the bus to cast in all these cities, and it came out. Yes,
we took a motorhome.
Yes, and And it had 3 rounds of it, and the casting thing, the shooting thing, and also college television.
Then the air dates.
Yeah, and the air dates, and also CTN, College Television Network, did their own behind-the-scenes thing.
Yeah.
And we went to cities that were where the demos were good, so we could boost those demos. And remember, we were going to finish in New Orleans. And
Tulane.
And we're on the bus, and they were going like, "There's a hurricane coming. You're going to have to divert." So we're on the bus, trying to go like, where are we going to shoot the last leg of our journey? And we're doing this. We're making it's like we're drawing up a plan on the dirt on a playing field.
Yeah.
And we're going like, well, wait a second. We're heading west. We got to make a decision soon because we have to go south or north or what. And we started in St. Louis. I said, let's bookend it. Let's just find another college to shoot in St. Louis. It's the Midwest. And so we called Washington U from the bus. We're going to be here in 48 hours or whatever, 24 hours. Can we shoot on your campus? And thank God the producers, we had such wonderful producers. They made it happen. And it was just amazing. And I think that everyone on that who were...
It was an incredible experience. And we had Hunt, Benjamin Hendrickson, John Hensley, I think were the 3.
Yep. With every city we brought someone in and made them part of the plot, as it were. So it was just an amazing experience.
And then when we came home, we did, the first sort of American Idol reality show with the early show.
CBS Early Show.
So we did the live screen tests.
We squeezed that one dry, Alan. We just
we did. There was nothing left after that.
We couldn't have gotten anything more out of that one.
No.
So, but again, I thought it was, and it did something, and we did something at the tail end when towards the end we did that tour again in Pittsburgh and.
Well, you did Intern and you did LA Diaries for the same reason, right? To help the show.
Absolutely. It was trying to, again, expand the footprint of different platforms. And it was just tough. I mean, As the World Turns had been on for so long, it's hard to develop new sort of vocabularies,
And Ryan something from $1 Million Listing was one of the interns, right?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I guess you've talked about it, but I'll ask it just in case there's another answer. What do you think daytime fans don't know about the day-to-day mechanics or challenges an EP faces trying to keep a show vital and on the air?
Well, as I said, it's trying to, there's so much. Every show can't be great. I mean, that going in. We're just, you lay it out and it's there, and it's just trying to, bring some life to it. And I think that if you're passionate about it and continue to stay passionate about it, it can wear on you, and it did me certainly. But that's the key. And I think that if everyone is on the same page, the same team, as I always say to my students, especially, television's about checking your ego at the door. You just have to be aware that we're all part of that one thing, one organism. And if a show's operating in that healthy fashion, then it becomes incredibly gratifying, and you are able to sort of exceed what was on the page and embellish it and amplify it, and you come away with something better.
If a show came to you today to EP and one of the last 4 shows, would you take it on?
No, that ship has sailed, Alan.
Okay. Well, you've mentioned your producing team. I know you met Carol back in the day at All My Children.
Yes.
But Jen Maloney said hello. She's watching, I believe, right now.
Yeah.
Talk about Carol and Vivian and just, their role in helping you run that ship.
There's nothing, including Jen, there was nothing. When you were talking in the control room, I would throw ideas, whatever. Everything was up for grabs. I needed to get feedback on everything. And Lord knows, it's just, I like to talk through everything. And they were so smart. All of them were so smart and so generous with their opinions that it was just, I was in good company. You know.
You certainly were.
Again, I couldn't have done the job without them. It was simply a matter of that.
Hands down. Well, your first Luke Snyder just said hello. Christopher Tavani, little Luke.
Oh,
he's watching.
Great. Say hi for me. Hi, Chris.
Do you recall any stories you wanted to tell at World Turns but were turned down by the powers?
Well, the funny thing is about this, Alan, is that we were given pretty free reign. I mean, I must say,
that's awesome.
You know, I think that sometimes CBS would go like, really, you want to do this? But Procter & Gamble was extremely, you know, aside from Luke and Noah, where, you know, there were some discussions, but they were they just said, what are you going to do about getting the ratings up? And so that was the biggest thing. But then they sort of trusted us. And again, for that, I'm incredibly grateful. And grateful for the cast and the artists. For instance, Donna Larson, lighting designer for
lighting,
and Patrick Howe, who's our scenic designer. They're teaching text with me in NYU. I brought them in to do that. So this sort of thing is these are generous, so talented people that are continually giving, and I think that's it. I think you just have to really stay positive.
Yeah, well, you had a committed team. Everybody was on board.
I was just very lucky, and they would not be afraid to say, you know, Chris, you're wrong. You know, you cannot do this. Sometimes I pushed back, and I said, we're going to do it, and I think it was 50-50, you know, in terms of being right or wrong. But I think that all told, we were allowed to have strong points of view. I wanted everyone. It was like Team of Rivals. You know what I'm saying? Like the Lincoln thing. I wanted strong opinions around me.
You know? That's great. I'm going to actually, Patrick Howe is going to do a show with Rick Dennis from Guiding Light.
Oh, terrific.
For set design.
Patrick's upstairs leading an art, a scenic design tech right now. So
tell him hello. I love that. I love that.
No.
You won an Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series in 2001. Do you remember anything about that night?
Picture of it.
yeah. That cast picture is great.
You know, to be honest with you, you know something, Alan? First of all, the fact that twice we were blessed with being on the stage of Radio City Music Hall in this century for a soap opera win was just what a memory. But to be honest with you, the awards were sort of, I liked everyone else getting awards. Do you know what I'm saying? It was about them, not about me. It was about the team. It was about the artists, about hair and makeup, Patrick, lighting, all those folks, the actors getting their due. And I think that for such a long time, As the World Turns wasn't given its due, especially in those awards. And we had to do something about it, and we did. And because there was that much talent there. And you know, that's what I think about when I think about that. I look at it as a group.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we had, you know, our cast was not recognized for a long time. And
Absolutely.
You know,
and it was sort of, you know, you don't want to be that, you know, ignored stepchild in daytime. And it was about being part of the conversation. And I think we succeeded in that.
Mm-hmm. Between Oakdale and Bay City, some of the actors you're most proud of for, you know, finding or, you know, working with your casting directors to bring on? I know you mentioned Paul,
Jen Farron, Jen Land. Who else did we have on World Turns? We brought in. Oh God, Terry Kahn. I mean, amazing. I mean, Terry Kahn. Let me just, you know, she was. She would always, you know, she could do anything.
And she made every relationship
work. You could put her with anybody and it worked. She's just a dear and amazing talent. Very underrated.
And Trent.
Oh, Trent. Again, you have this eccentric character, and it was just
Jesse, Lee, and Van.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, Van made,
yes.
Van made that,
Yes, and
him and
Billy
Jake.
Magnuson came
Yeah,
on, and
yeah,
Zach Rohrig, and
yeah.
you go down the list. I mean, the number of actors who came in was just astonishing.
It really, even looking back before your time and my time working there, the amount of talent that walked through Oakdale's doors over the 50, 4 years is insane when you look at it
It's
as a whole,
astonishing.
as talent
And
that,
again, I'm just going to say again, Mary Clay Boland just going out and finding and convincing sometimes reluctant actors to do daytime. She did it, you know.
yeah, for little money.
Well,
Sometimes,
sometimes,
yeah, I mean,
more than the theater, but she,
more than theater. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But she was just terrific at doing that, you know.
We had a blast on the road casting. Are you kidding? I mean, there's fans watching now the locker room who I think auditioned or came to our cities. They tell me that they were in Charlotte when we were
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah. So it's really great to hear that.
But it's always also was a way to, as you said, to sort of experience fans firsthand, because we did all these things with the local news, and you always got a sense of the community, the city, what the show meant, just spending time there. And I just treasure it. And I think that, I think there were a couple things that were said that I didn't listen to fans. I think it was the exact opposite. I always listen to fans. I may not have listened to the magazines, but I always listen to fans. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know how to ask this question, but like, I'm thankful as the publicist having to deal with talent and deal with fans per se, but social media. I'm so glad we were not in the throes of our shows for Guiding Light and World Turns when I worked there, because I think it would have been overwhelming.
I agree with you. I mean, I found a lot of it overwhelming just in our sort of very sort of,
snail mail.
Snail mail universe.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%. And again, hats off to everyone who's still doing it. It's a hard environment.
And I mean, everybody who's still doing it, I mean, the pace is even insane.
Well, even more so. And again, there's the financial squeezes on and all that sort of stuff beyond even anything that I can even recall, I'm sure. So again, just so much respect for everyone who's doing it.
And we were talking about, the talent. I mean, getting Julianne Moore back for the end of the show was a big deal.
Well, that was Noelle Beck.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, they're friends. Their kids grew up together. We couldn't. I mean, we went, Noelle, would you mind talking to Julianne? And she went, no, I don't mind. So, and then Mary Clay got involved, and it sort of, we had very rich ambitions, which were ridiculous. So we just got her to say this quick walk on. So it was great. And first of all, Julianne was a terrific person, has always spoke so fondly of the show, and is an amazing actress. So
yeah, she did. Jen Maloney actually told me about, she just did a Today Show piece, maybe in the last couple of months, where she really spoke really respectfully, as she should, as everybody should. I mean, if you can do that, daytime, man.
You can do anything.
You really
can do anything.
Really, the shows that you did as an actor were all 30 minutes, right? Am I correct?
Texas was an hour.
It was an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was Gail Kobe, I think, exec that. And Bob Thompson produced. Yeah.
Wow. Were you there when Beverly McKinsey was on Texas?
Yes, she was. I didn't have much to do with her. I was acting friendship with Harley Kozak.
Yeah.
She played my sister, I think. Something like that.
And is that where Michael Woods from?
Of course. I met Michael Woods there, and he's my best friend. So I still stay in touch with him and everything like that. So again, the late Larkin Malloy from Edge of Night, my dearest friend, and again, this is
our acting coach at World Turns.
Absolutely, I see. I couldn't say. I had to have him with us. I couldn't say goodbye. So yeah, so many friendships were made, and so many friendships endure, and that's the important thing.
You, as I mentioned in the intro, you wrote and produced and directed 2 short films. What were they? What were the story about?
Well, one of them, Square Root of Three, with Victor Slazak and Janet Zarish, and also Scott Holmes was in it. I did that when I was at All My Children. Visions of Joanna, I did a few years ago. Grayson was in that. Grayson McCooch.
Wow.
Yes, and I just corresponded with Cooch on the texted with him, and hopefully we're gonna hook up and have.
Oh my God, I would love to. He's one I'd still love to get for this.
Oh, he's a hoot. I'm
seen him.
trying to nail him down just so we can get together. So
I have not seen him in years.
Yeah,
but he was a good guy. I
love him to death. And another one, also IED, which I just made a couple years ago, was another one. And as a matter of fact, Alan, because these things just.
I love it. I love what you have them all in your office.
Well, I mean, everything's in my office.
That's great.
Also, I've been writing 2. I wrote novels, and one of them is called Edge of Night.
A novel?
A novel, Edge of Night, available on Amazon, dedicated to Larkin Malloy. So,
is it about the show?
Well, it's a fictional version of it. So any with characters, fictional or otherwise, is purely coincidence.
I'm gonna put the link up, Chris, on the YouTube page so they can. I'll put the link to the Amazon store.
Okay, great.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't realize.
Yeah, and it's dedicated to Larkin, so Yeah.
Wow, when did that come out?
Last year. No, it was during COVID. Timing is everything, Alan.
What prompted you to?
Well, I've done 4. There are 4 of them. I've done 4 now. So if you
all Edge of Night.
No, 4 different novels, and if you look up C.P. Goutman on Amazon, you'll find them. But Edge of Night's the latest, and it's taken a very fictional account of this.
Wow. So now, being at NYU and teaching, do you watch and teaching television? Are there things you watch now so that you are up to date?
Yes, and I rely on my students to say, what should I watch? Because they tell me.
And what would you recommend right now?
Oh, well, everything that won the Emmys this year is all great stuff. Nighttime Emmys, they're all terrific series, and I watched all of them. And I'm always curious about new stuff and finding gems to watch that people may not have heard of. For instance, there's this little series called State of the Union, which was on Showtime. It's the little 10-minute episodes with Rosamund Pike and another actor. I'm always looking for new stuff, inventive stuff for my students to watch, and which I'm curious about as well. And I continue to write. Plays of mine are being produced continually, so it's all good.
Would you like to work with any of your former cast members? Has there been anybody you think you'd love to write for?
That's not how my brain works.
Right.
But
I love that I love. If you please keep me posted if there's anything produced in New York. I will.
Well, I should have been in touch with you about that. So yeah. So I continue to do that, and that's an interesting idea that you just had about former cast members.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, that's a sad part about the New York daytime world, that it doesn't exist, because so many of our daytime actors have remained on the East Coast and would love to,
Absolutely. And again, you lose touch a little bit. I know that Trent's up in Katona.
Yeah, he's got. You need to put a play up at his stage.
He does his own thing, and he's got his own sort of what kind of
what he wants to produce.
Yeah, classical stuff, which is, and again, he's.
Oh yeah.
And I think that there are a couple, there are a few around. And again, I've been in touch over the years with Colleen quite a bit. And Colleen was absolutely indispensable. She was the one who spearheaded my entering the silver circle of Natus. So she's the one who just sort of did that a couple years ago. So I'm just in debt to a lot of people. That's the way I feel. And I just feel very grateful.
You really did great stuff for Colleen. There was some great storytelling.
Oh, well, she's great. I mean, she's, see, again, she's game, she's, she's a gamer. So you can do anything with Colleen, and she'd go like, okay, she's great.
100%. How are your children?
Children are great. My son, Nick, graduated with a master's degree in social work from NYU. Oh, wow. And is now doing some social work at the JCC in Manhattan. And my daughter, who got her master's in education at NYU, graduate degree, I got no discounts, is now teaching in an East Harlem charter school, a theater.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're both doing the good work that their father's very proud of.
Seriously. Yeah. And your mother would be very proud of you and your daughter.
Absolutely. I think that, the funny thing is, when she just started this job this past September, she was in Denver for 3 years. She just moved back. And I dug up some old theater books that belonged to my mother, and I gave them to her. And she was just so, just felt very touched by it. She feels such a connection to her late grandmother. So
when did you lose your mom?
2010, the same year that the show went off the air. It was a banner year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had those years when my parents.
Yeah.
But she got to see your success, which is fantastic.
That's what absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at.
As did my father. It was all good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Chris, I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Well, thank you. It's so good to see you. I'm glad this is going well. Congratulations on your 200th episode.
Thank you.
And let's stay in touch and all
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Right. Good to see you, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Chris Goutman, for joining me today. I couldn't have done it without Chris. And thanks to all of you again for making these 200 episodes possible. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. I know that there have been many fans asking for the reunion that I have coming up next Wednesday. We have a reunion with the cast of Generations, and the executive producer and creator, Sally Sussman, will be here to talk to all of you and me. So have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks again for watching.